Well, we have made it to week 11, and I really feel like last week was a lost opportunity for the Bears, Dan. They should have won that game. They could have won that game, and I think it would have done a lot for the morale of where this team is at right now at 3-7. He, of course, is Dan Wiederer from the Chicago Tribune. I'm Dionne Miller. Dan, how do you feel about it?
So there are two conversations that can be had at once, and I hope that this city proves itself capable of being able to walk and chew bubblegum at the same time, because you can acknowledge the tremendous growth of Justin Fields in the offense and feel very good about that and feel encouraged and feel excited and understand that everything that we wanted to see out of the season is happening in front of our eyes over these last 4 games, while still having the feeling that you just expressed that doesn't necessarily forgive you in every moment of not having to take care of tasks that are taken care of, right? Like, to put it in a strange way, but right, like it's just like, it's not an unreasonable ask to ask your offense to put together a 45-yard field goal drive against the league's worst defense. And when they don't, and when you have a 4-phase breakdown and blow a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter against a bad opponent, it's okay to point it out while still also not debunking the idea that Justin Fields and the offense are moving in the direction that we asked them to move in, and we should feel very excited about that.
It is so exciting. He has become must-see football, and it's not just here in our city. It is around the league. He is getting everyone's attention, and a lot of people are asking, like, is he the future face of football? I mean, if he keeps on this pace, Dan, he's going to be. But just you recognizing also how young he is, right? Like, to be making these strides is incredible, but he is still 23 years old. It's still his second season. And for him to like blanketly say, I will never throw an interception like that again, it's just kind of like, okay, you have more experience here in the league.
No, but I do appreciate that, because Justin immediately owned up to that mistake, right? And it was like, okay, I really screwed up there. And it was a very costly mistake, a pick 6 at the start of a fourth quarter that just can't happen situationally with where you were in that football game. And what does he do 3 plays later? He has the longest run by a Bears quarterback in history, right? And he continues adding to the record books. And so it's another piece of evidence that tells you just how mentally strong this guy is, right? Like, Mitch Trubisky would have thrown that pick 6 and we would have been in a funk until Christmas. Right. And like this is the difference, right? You've got a guy now who 3 snaps later can get the entirety of it back with his legs and his vision and his speed and his, playmaking instincts. And so you love that, and you wrap your arms around that. You also bring up how young he is, which I think is one of the best parts about this, because he's still a block of clay that can be molded. And the Bears are doing a tremendous job right now of molding him. And that is a credit to Andrew Janocko, his quarterback's coach. It's a credit to Matt Eberflus, his head coach. But most of all, it's a credit to Luke Getsy, who I think has done an amazing job since really the start of training camp of being like, okay, this is a process and it's going to be fluid and it's going to move in this direction, and then we're going to have to steer it back in this direction. And what we've gotten now as a result is a quarterback and a coordinator who are in complete sync with each other during the week and then on game days. And then the results are that the offense can score 30 points or get at least north of 28 every single week. And that is something that, like, we've spent years on this channel talking about, when is this team going to get to 24 points? Right. It drives us crazy. And now they're at 28 and above every single week.
It's so incredible to see how Getsy has adjusted to set Justin up for success. And it's so, there are conversations that they're having. Like, I'm such a fan. Every week I want to hear what Luke Getsy has to say, because you know that he is putting this kid in place to be so successful. I do think, as much running as Justin has done, I think it's important to note, though, the loss of Khalil Herbert is a big deal. Like, that is, he was running so hard. Almost running David Montgomery out of a job. Like, that's how impressive Khalil was. And that's a big loss because of also what he did in the return game.
Well, that's right. And so there's a 2-prong part of this conversation with Khalil Herbert, because now you have to identify who's going to return kicks for you. The natural instinct would be Treston Ebner. Oh, by the way, Treston Ebner's got to go be a bigger part of your offense now. And so to put him in that heightened role, you probably need to find someone else to return kicks for you. And we've heard really over the last few weeks the lack of confidence and trust in Velus Jones that gives you some pause. This is a 3rd-round pick that's got to be able to help you in some way. And if you're now at a point where you can't even trust him to catch a kickoff and run with it, we've got big questions about how he fits in your long-term plans of the organization. I do think it's going to be fun, because this season is about kind of trying to identify these younger players that can be difference makers for you. And so now, Treston Ebner, welcome to the stage, kid. Like, let's see what you've got on a fast track in Atlanta that will give you opportunities in a Bears offense that is running the ball better than anyone in the league to show what you can do. And so it's a really cool moment for Ebner. I know you were there on Wednesday when Ebner spoke to the media, and I appreciated how honest he was in saying, look, like the knock on me coming out of college was that I wasn't great as a pass blocker. And guess what? I don't disagree with that knock. And he basically said, I've got terrible technique as a pass blocker, but I also gave up no sacks in college. And so I find a way, despite some of the fundamental flaws I have, to get the job done. And so that's going to be another part of not only watching his running on Sunday in Atlanta, but can he help you as a pass protector in a way that then earns him more playing time?
There is something to be said about covering young players in the NFL because you are getting more honest answers like that, as opposed to like the cliche stuff that a lot of the veterans know they're supposed to say to us. It's kind of nice that he doesn't know that he wasn't supposed to talk to us like that. But as they head to this Atlanta game, obviously it's like Bears South. I mean, I counted at least 9 players on the active roster that used to play for the Bears or were in a Bears uniform at some point, plus coaches. And I mean, we're upwards of a dozen. So, but there's a lot of emotion in a game like this for sure. But you look at what Cordarrelle Patterson is doing, and do the Bears have enough to counter how successful he has been, both in the return game and in the running game?
Yeah, so look, like Cordarrelle Patterson's on his 5th team, and it's the first team that's truly figured out how to use him to the maximum potential, right? And he's had such success the last 2 years. He reunited with Dave Ragone down there, his coordinator in Atlanta, and working under Arthur Smith. And he's so dangerous in the run game. You heard from Alan Williams on Thursday just talking about how versatile he is as a runner. They can run him in a lot of different directions. And Alan Williams ultimately, with all due respect, called Cordarrelle Patterson an alien, right? Like, because he's just a guy that you don't find because of the combination of size, strength, speed, and versatility that's there. Normally, I would say, the Bears can figure this out, but this defense right now doesn't have a lot of answers for anything. And so you leave yourself scratching your head and saying, man, at what point do we identify at least 4 or 5 playmakers, right, on this defense that can help you stem the tide a little bit and prevent the offense from needing to score 35 to win games, right, which has been the case here the last 3 weeks. And so, look, like they've got to find answers. It's going to be a fun matchup. To your point, if you add Eddie Goldman, who's no longer with the Falcons, but he is still on their reserve retired list, there's 10 former players, 5 former Bears coaches, and 2 executives, as you well know, with Ryan Pace and Phil Emery there, that are going to be part of this football game on Sunday.
I am interested in the vibe. Like, I want to know what that is like, especially because, Pace will be out there saying hello to the players that he drafted and signed and brought to Chicago. And it's a odd and mysterious reunion that the Bears are going to here, but it is also an opportunity for them. Yes, they're going to be underdogs on the road because that's just who the Bears are right now. But this is a winnable game if they're able to get some things shored up defensively.
No question, right? And so that leads back to your original question about, like, can this team find ways to achieve things that are achievable? You can't just say we're a terrible team, so we're not, you can't expect us to do anything. Because in my opinion, that's the acceptance of mediocrity and the acceptance of failure that has doomed this organization for decades, right? And so if we're raising the bar here, the bar has to be raised accordingly, week by week, situation by situation, to see what they can clear. And so it's an opportunity, again, to go down there and put together a successful effort and continue building on the things that they have shown they can build on and working on some weaknesses. I will say this, I was texting with Ryan Pace a little bit earlier in the week, and going to be eager to catch up with him somewhere in the press box on Sunday. But what a weird experience this is going to be for him on Sunday, watching the quarterback that he was so confident in, Justin Fields, that he jumped up 10 spots up the draft board to draft. And now Justin is experiencing all the success for the Bears while Ryan is in Atlanta. That's got to be a weird watch for Ryan Pace.
Not to mention, Justin is going home and to the team that he grew up cheering for and going to games and watching. And one of the questions, I got to talk with an Atlanta reporter earlier this week and was just like, do the Falcons regret not taking Justin Fields because of what he's showing that he can be able to do? And he says, of course, out loud, they're going to say no, but there has to be some regret in there when you see the way he's able to take advantage of defenses and the way he's able to improvise. That was the one thing Luke Getsy said. He said, he reaches a point where I let him just kind of whatever he sees go. And that is a step in his progress, Dan, that we are not used to seeing.
Well, look, like we still need to see Justin show more consistent pocket presence. He's made improvements in that area. There's no question that when you watch the current film versus what it looked like in September, you say, man, there's growth there. There's no question about it. And then when you have a guy with an ability who every quarter can rip off a big play, right? Like even the first play of the Lions game last week, it was a basic zone read quarterback keeper, and he got out for 28 yards without being touched. And you're just like, we talked for years about how difficult every single thing had to operate in unison in the Matt Nagy offense for anything to click. And then Justin just like fake handoff 28 yards. Here we go, right? Like we're on our way to a scoring drive. What a luxury that is for Luke Getsy, for the Bears as a whole. And you just have to make sure that you maximize this because, look, you felt it the way I felt it. It's an exciting time, and no one here is denying that. Now it's just about continuing that stair-step climb so that when your moment comes to strike on a bigger level, you're ready for it.
All right, we've danced around it a little bit. Do you think the Bears pull this off?
I've picked them to win. I've got a 30-27 final. I got to say, like this season, of all the seasons that I've covered this team, it's been the hardest week to week to figure out what to do with these game predictions. I just don't really believe in the Falcons. They're not very good. I think they're the case study in the 2022 NFL. They're just a team, right? Like they're not great, they're not terrible. They're just kind of there. And if you can make sure that you minimize your mistakes and create some of those big plays, which obviously we've seen, big play potential is now within the Chicago Bears offense. I think they can go there, hit 30 points again, and win a game.
But the Falcons are only a game out. That's how bad their division is right now,
which
is pretty unbelievable. Yeah.
2022 NFL, right? So it should be fun. Like it'll be a really entertaining game. And that's the coolest part of being inside of a 3-7 season that has entertainment value, right? It doesn't feel like a death march to week 18 because we know now we've got a week-to-week show to watch, even if it doesn't mean anything in the grand picture of playoff aspirations or championship hopes.
All right, Dan, say hi to Ryan Pace for me.
I will.